Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today in War Thunder we are on the update 1.85 dev server and we're having a look at one of the new Italian vehicles. This is actually the highest BR vehicle in the game for the Italian ground forces. It is the OTOMATIC, the rank 6 BAS rating 9.0 SPAA, which I'm not sure is a 9.0, well not a 9.0, I'm not sure is an SPAA. It has the radar guided AA system, meaning that you can pump rounds into a lot of stuff very, very quickly. But on top of this, it also has systems which kind of put it more towards tank destroying than anything else. So let's have a look at the armor of this vehicle first. First of all, you are looking at 70mm of armor on the upper glacis, which is okay. It's pretty good actually for an AA vehicle. 50mm low glacis, so hopefully you don't get hull broken in this thing. The unfortunate thing, though, is the turret's only 25, and this normally results in a hull-broken machine, or a machine that is hull-breakable. Also, the radar up here, even though it's not part of the X-ray, I've got a feeling that since it's modeled on the armor, at some point this may actually become part of the damage model, and you'll be able to destroy the radar-guided systems of these machines, which I think is pretty cool. But yeah, 25mm all around the turret is really not good for the automatic, and then you also have 35mm on the side, and 25 at the back, and on the boot so you have 25 as well. My feeling is this won't get hull broken, but I am unsure. It is kind of on the edge. When we look at the inside X-ray, the main thing to see is this bloody cannon breech is ridiculously big. Its first stage ammo stowage is 23 rounds. It has a vertical guidance of -5 and +60. And then of course you have the 76mm Auto Breda Cannon, da 7662, and it's just, I can't believe how big this damn breech is. Also, it has this interesting set of lines, which I'm guessing is where you feed in the shells to it. And right now there isn't any shells in it, but I'm guessing that's how it works. The crew that you have a three-man crew. You have a driver who is miles away from everybody else, and then you have three people very, very close to each other. You got the commander, who is on the radio station, obviously looking to see for targets from the AA system that it has. You have the loader over here, and then you have the gunner in the middle. Now, to power this baby, you have an 830 horsepower engine, which moving a 46-ton vehicle is not too bad. It's obviously not as good as some of the top-tier MBTs that we have in the game, but a 9.0, it's serviceable. The fuel tank is obviously flanking the engine. Then we have the radiator and the transmission at the back. So overall, the power of this machine is all in the back here. But if you want to take it out, all you have to do is shoot here. Basically aim for this hatch. You see this hatch on on either side. Just aim for there, and guess what? You annihilate all three of the main crew members, and this thing goes dead or bye-bye. Taking out the breech of the automatic is also going to be very easy to do since it's the size of a walrus, so that'll be grand. Also, the visibility of it, which is something I don't really talk about, but look at the visibility of the OF40 or the OF40 Mark IIA, which is the one that you will be using alongside the automatic, or the Romor. It's 84%, 85%, 250. Like, you will see this from an absolute mile away in game, which will be absolutely hilarious. Anyway, modifications wise, what is fun about the automatic is it doesn't actually have any shell upgrades. So the two shells it has is APF-SDS and HE MOM. Now, APF-SDS pens 311mm, oh god, at 9.0, and this is why it is 9.0, because of basically this round. It has a fast-firing 0.6 second APF-SDS round, which can pen up to 300mm, and goes at a muzzle velocity of 1580 meters per second. The HE, which obviously you want to use to knock down aircraft, which nobody will use, has 13mm of penetration, and that is it. On top of this, you do have access to smoke grenades for extra survivability, and a rangefinder, which is lovely to actually have. The turret rotation speed of this thing as well is 28 degrees per second, which is incredibly quick for a vehicle very similar to the OF40 at 28.7, and you know how quick that is. This thing, I believe, also has a stabilizer, but we'll make sure to test that out for you. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe it does so. On top of this, the customization-wise, the standard one is this normal color, which, to be honest, I think I prefer other colors, such as the British color over the Italian one. You have the desert camouflage late, you have the tricolor late, the best camouflage, and then, of course, you have the winter camouflage right here. So you have camouflages for all occasions, not as much in depth as other nations, but, you know, it is how it is. You have serviceable camouflages, and that's all you really need. So let's take this thing into a test drive. What I like to do is swap around these, and I'll show you why. So, one of the things that stuff like the Chieftain Marksman, the Gepard now have is a kind of belt-fed system, and you can see down there that this machine has 90 rounds of ammunition, and that's it. Now, let's go out, and I'll show you something. So look how bloody fast this turret is, by the way. You have 78 rounds of HE and 12 rounds of APF SDS. That is not a lot. That is hardly anything for this vehicle. Now, if we go test drive and we actually swap these around, right, let's see what happens. Now, you would think that you would get 78 rounds of APF SDS, right? Well, you don't. You only get 12. You see how weird that is and kind of annoying it is? Because 12 rounds of APF SDS, you know, you read the rest of the stats and you're like, oh, okay, so this APF SDS is crazy. I have a really good, what's the word? There we go. I have a really good amount of APF SDS that I can use, you know, to defend myself, but no, that's not the case. You get 12 rounds out of 90, and the rest have to be dedicated to HE. Now, is the HE good? Yes, it's great at killing aircraft. You can actually see here that I just one-shot that aircraft and blew off its tail. So it's very good at taking out aircraft, the HE. The problem is, what if you're in a scenario, since you are at 9.0, what if you're in a scenario where you have to deal with tanks? Well, you don't really have a choice, and since you're the top tier vehicle, my god, it absolutely annihilates. Since you're the top tier vehicle of the Italian tree, first of all, you have really good optics, by the way, but you are kind of destined to not use this thing. I know this sounds really odd, right? But first of all, you have a vehicle which is slightly lower than the automatic in, here, I'll show you in the tech tree, which actually fits with the 8.7 lineup, right? The 8.7 lineup of Italy with the OF40 Mark IIA and the Romor is pretty good. You know, you've got two stabilized vehicles, they're pretty quick. This is basically just a slightly better Leopard A1A1. Then you got the Romor, which is big, but it's fun to use. Then you got the CDAM 25, right? So if you want an AA vehicle, you've already got one which has 425mm. The automatic at 9.0, you know what the problem is with having a vehicle at 9.0? It gets up-tiered, and it gets up-tiered into 10.0. You know what you don't want to up-tier into 10.0? 8.7. So you know what all you've got? You know what's all you have got for Italy? 8.7s. Like, even though the automatic can do stuff like that, right? It can one-shot IT-1s. Now, IT-1s don't have the best armor, so it's probably not the best, you know, case for it. But when it comes to killing aircraft, see, it just annihilates, it obliterates. It's an amazing AA piece if anything gets close to it. I'm sure against helicopters as well, it will be able to do a lot of damage. On top of this, it does have good speed. It has great everything. Even though it's the absolute size of the Empire State Building, it still is able to be useful. Like in the fact that it can pen the front of a lot of medium tanks. And I think this is why the ammo is limited on it. Because if it was anything more, you could just go along and kill everything. But because it's at 9.0, it ain't going to face the tanks that I'm shooting here. It's going to face stuff like this T-64A. And it will be able to kill the T-64A, but what about an Abrams flying about the place? What about a Leopard 2A4? What about a Type 90? What about the new T-72A? What about the T-80? This thing only has just over 300mm of penetration. That means I'm going to have to aim for weak spots, and guess what they have to do to me? They have have to look at me and click, because I am not made of 300mm of armor. I am made of paper. 25mm on this turret, and this is the problem with the automatic. It is a great aircraft killer. Is it a good helicopter killer? Well, we're going to have to find out. But what it isn't good at is top tier, because it doesn't have any support. It doesn't have a vehicle at 9.0 or 9.3 or 9.7. Maybe in the future, you know, when the Italians get, you know, the C1 Ariete, or they get some kind of vehicle which is going to go along with them, then yes, the automatic would make sense to go along with it. You know, if you had a 10.0 vehicle and you needed to bring an AA, hell yeah, you bring the automatic. Right now, where it is, hell no, you don't bring the automatic, because all you have is this huge bloody machine which is going to get one shot by most MBTs at that level, and you do not have the support, you do not have the secondary support to make sure that you are going to be able to survive and move on and kick on. Yes, the APF SDS is great for an AA. You know what it isn't great for? Your standard ass tank. And guess what this thing's going to be putting itself up against? Standard ass tanks. For me personally, I'm very happy to see it in game. It's nice to see that it has a wonderful, you know, shot rate, or, you know, reload rate, and it's nice to see that it absolutely decimates vehicles. What I am really worried about is the fact that it just doesn't have a lineup around it, and the vehicles you have at 8.7, you do not want to up tier into 10.0. And guess what happened to all those 9.0 vehicles they added last patch? You remember they added the Leopard, they added the TAM, they added the T55AM. They're all at 8.7 now, because the 9.0 bracket gets up-tiered every time into 10.0, because people want to win, people want to play the best stuff. That's exactly what's going to happen to this automatic. If it doesn't get dropped to 8.7, you can make a powerhouse lineup at 8.7, by the way. But if it doesn't get dropped to 8.7, this thing's going to have issues. What I would personally do to get rid of the problems that I've talked about, you take away its APF SDS, you make it a tier 3 modification, you give this thing only HE to start with, drop it to 8.7, then you'll actually see it in the game. But for right now, I don't think this thing makes it into game, you know, in any lineup whatsoever. Because if you put this in, you are dooming your other tanks, and you are dooming everything around it. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time.